Okay, good. So we're going to get going. It's wonderful to have you all here, and I'd just like to do a little introduction. Thank you, first of all, for joining us for this first part of a 7-part series in exploring the language of embodied mindfulness with Lisa Furrer. It looks like there is a combination this evening of people who know Lisa well as some participants who've joined us who may not know her or the work. But this evening's call is entitled Exploring Mindfulness, the Menu and the Meal. And this evening we're going to be joining for about 30 minutes, and Lisa's going to take us through exploring some of the many definitions of mindfulness, followed by a guided mindfulness meditation practice. And I'd just like to introduce Lisa. She is on the Master Leader Program, our inaugural program, which starts in September 2021. It's an online immersion program for lifelong learners who are committed to being forces for good, change in the world, and a program for the inner development to make the sustainable changes needed going into the future for world, communities, societies, and the workplace at large. Lisa has come on board as a wisdom teacher, and she brings her creativity both as a designer and a facilitator into the practice of her wisdom teachings. And her mindfulness-based stress reduction was part of the foundation where she developed and pursued a keen interest in and practicing a creative and movement and awareness-based process that pertained to human development, learning, and awakening. And she's offered these practices in various different capacities. For example, to MBA students at UCT Graduate School of Business, as well as to different exec ed groups in corporate places in South Africa and internationally. She's also developed a program entitled Creative Awareness, which is an 8-session intervention as part of the Creativity in Business module, which is offered on the Diploma in Entrepreneurship through the School of Management Studies at the University of Cape Town. Lisa has also offered traditional mindfulness-based stress reduction programs, as well as shorter tastes of mindfulness retreats in various different contexts. We welcome you this evening, Lisa, and everyone on the call, for which I'm sure is going to be an enriching experience. And there is also one other person that I would like to point out on the call this evening, and her name is Natalie Wessels. You'll see her on the call. Natalie is one of our team members at the Master Leader Program. She's going to be supporting these sessions in the chat room and be posting different pieces of information that will be relevant to you. Also, if you've got a question that you would like to ask at any time during the session, please feel free to type it into the chat room. Natalie's going to monitor it for us. And lastly, just to introduce myself, I'm Anita Craig, the founder of the Master Leader Program, and welcome you all here for the session. Make it yours, own it, and you're in safe hands with Lisa. Over to you, Lisa.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Anita, for such a lovely introduction. And also for the wonderful invitation and opportunity to share this beautiful practice with you on your program, which is really so exciting. Yeah, it's going to be a key component of this wonderful journey. And I really see mindfulness as a foundational practice for the whole offering that you've created. And so, yeah, very, very pleased and very honored to be part of it. And just a warm welcome to all of you. Thank you so much for being here and showing up. And I just invite you to relax, bring your curiosity and an openness. I have entitled this evening's session, The Menu and the Meal, because I find that with something that has as much cultural currency as mindfulness has these days, it's really, it can be such a vague thing to try and describe what is this, I see it everywhere. Mindfulness cups of tea, mindfulness stress reduction program, mindful yoga. And this word is it's just hard to know what it actually means. And so what I thought would be a lovely way in is to give you through language some of the definitions that I've come across. And most particularly, I want to explore the definition that comes from Dr. Jon Kabat-Zinn. He is known as the father of secular mindfulness, and he developed the mindfulness-based stress reduction program more than 50 years ago. And really, it was on the back of this program and the research that has followed it that I think that mindfulness has, as I say, become such a powerful currency. And, I think, Anita, what you were saying about being a force for good, at its heart, mindfulness really is a practice that encourages the cultivation of wisdom, kindness, and compassion, which, I don't even need to say how badly the world is hungering for these qualities. And what's so amazing is they're already inside us, and we just need to know how to meet them and how to work with them, and then how to bring them forth. For those of you that are just joining, my name is Lisa Furrer, and I'm facilitating mindfulness on the Master Leader program, which kicks off later this year. And tonight is just an introduction, looking at some of the definitions of mindfulness and the language that's used to describe it, which we could say is the menu. So we're going to read the menu, and we're going to read a few different menus, and then we're actually going to have a bite. We're going to taste the meal, and we're going to see the difference between what it is to sort of approach this practice conceptually and then experientially. And both are very important. So those two concepts that I want to just bring some clarity around. So as you sit here, I would like you to direct your attention to your left foot. And have you noticed that your left foot, which may have been out of your awareness, is suddenly in your awareness? And you can just let that go. And I'd like to invite you now to direct your attention behind you, to the space behind you. And just noticing how guiding attention in this way suddenly makes the space behind you available in your awareness. It was always there, but you just didn't notice it. And so these are the two very potent words, directions that are at the heart of practicing mindfulness. It's about attention and awareness. It is about how we use our attention, and then the awareness that arises when we use our attention in particular ways. So it's said that attention is our superpower because it brings us in touch with awareness, which is the ever-present supportive space in which we live, we work, we relate. So I'm going to kick off with the first definition. This is a traditional Jon Kabat-Zinn definition. And he says that mindfulness is the awareness that arises when we pay attention in the present moment without judgment. So I'm going to repeat that one more time and just see if you can almost become a container or a vessel for the words. So if you'd like to, you might even shut your eyes and just take the words in. Just let them settle in and see what you make of them. Mindfulness is the awareness that arises when we pay attention in the present moment without judgment. And just noticing how your mind might be playing around with this and wondering a little bit and maybe curious or confused. And into this lovely, open and interested vessel that is you, I'm going to pop another definition. So mindfulness is a state of being based on a deep, detailed awareness of what is happening in your present moment experience and is characterized by openness, curiosity, and acceptance. Openness, curiosity, and acceptance. And another angle in. Mindfulness refers to a quality or state of being present and aware in your life with an attitude of non-judgment. And you can practice mindfulness at any time, anywhere, and with anyone. A quality or state of being present. And finally, mindfulness can be described as the cultivation of one of our greatest gifts, which is awareness. Yet we often live as if we're half asleep and function on autopilot. Mindfulness is about waking up, and it is a journey of self-discovery. One of our greatest gifts is awareness, and yet we often live as if we were half asleep on autopilot. And mindfulness is about waking up. So, if these are some of the definitions, and there are many, many definitions, and in fact, John Kabat-Zinn says that he soon gave up trying to find a very precise definition, although he did, bring that very general orientation, which a lot of people use and sort of make their own. But he said it's like opening a can of worms. And he said, rather than seeing it as something which is a concept that needs to be defined, could we perhaps consider the possibility that being mindful is about a way of life or an attitude or a state of being that is available to us? And, I can hear you already saying, that's very nice. It's all well and good. Here are these definitions. But actually, how might this practice come alive? And at the heart of it, this practice comes alive with intention. Something inside of you, when you hear about mindfulness, maybe the little bit that's brought you to this call tonight, or you've heard about it somewhere else, or I've had a little conversation with you, something has woken up and has thought, this sounds interesting. I'd like to know more. And so there's already an intentionality there, which is an openness, a kind of a, yes, I want to know more. And so when we cultivate a mindfulness practice, when we commit to a practice, it's the underpinning is of intentionality, of choosing. I choose to do this. And what I choose to do is to develop, to cultivate, to grow, to nurture. And these are all images to do with gardening or growing food. So there's this idea embedded in this idea of growth and cultivation, that there's a seed of something that if we intend to nourish it, could flower. And so this is this intention to cultivate. And what do we cultivate? We cultivate being in the present moment. And what is this vague concept, the present moment? And if you come to my next session in 2 weeks' time, we're going to do a deeper dive into the present moment. But for now, suffice to say that this very moment and every very moment of our lives is the present moment. It's so obvious. It's right here. It's always here. It's under our noses and we're swimming in it. We're swimming in the present moment. And yet the present moment has almost become like a static thing, like a box of biscuits, the present moment. It's like something we think we can go and grab or go and get. But actually, the present moment is a very alive and fluid aliveness that's happening right now. And one of the, the great sadnesses, it also happens to be a benefit of our minds. We'll get to that another time when we talk about stress. But for now, it's quite sad that our mental processes take us away from the present moment. And so when my invitation to explore as you going through your life is to recognize that the present moment is the only moment where there's any agency. You can only do something now. You can't do it yesterday, and you can't do it tomorrow. Yes, we can have memories of what we have done or what has happened, and those memories are echoes of the past that show up in the present moment. And we might have fears or desires or anxieties about the future, but those are just thoughts and fears and anxieties and feelings which are cropping up now. And very often things don't work out. In fact, most of the time things don't work out as we think they will or they might. And so when you really kind of investigate it in this way, you'll realize, wow, this is it. This is, this is the power of now. That's why that book makes so much sense, by Eckhart Tolle. The power is now. And so if you're wanting to access your natural creativity, your aliveness, your possibility for connecting to yourself and others, it can only happen now. It can only happen now. So this is this incredible, amazing possibility that it's all here and it's all now. And the other thing I want to say about the present moment, and this is something that, it's quite hard to get our heads around, because most of our moments are very ordinary moments. We're just kind of, getting from one thing to the next. But in doing so, we lose how incredibly precious every single moment is. And every moment does count. Every moment makes up the trajectory of your very precious and magnificent life. So every moment counts. And the presence that you are able to bring to this moment will have a qualitative impact on the moments to come. And this is why, Anita is backing this practice as a foundational practice for the Master Leader Program, because as we are more and more able to inhabit our own selves, to be present, to notice, to pay attention, then that is the energy out of which we operate, and a different future is created. So what is this non-judgmental awareness? So, one of the things that we have, which is very useful to have as a human being, is the possibility of discernment, is of saying, yes, thanks, I'll have that, but not that. I have a good feeling about this person, but actually I want to step away there. So this capacity to be discerning and to make judgments is really, really important. But unfortunately, when that is an ongoing sort of mode of being that's operating inside ourselves, towards ourselves, or towards the world, it can be quite destructive. And so when we pay attention, we might begin to realize just how all over the place our minds are. We might notice how scattered we are. We might notice very difficult feelings that are there that we might have not been aware of, or pains in our body that we've distracted ourselves with on social media. And when we notice this, it can be quite easy for a very strong critical voice to emerge in response to this and say, that's bad, that's wrong. And so that attitude of curiosity that I invited you guys to bring to the call at the beginning, this non-judgmental attitude, is one of being like a kind of a kind and curious scientist in your own life. It's like, here I am, this is what's happening. Can I meet it? Can I be open and spacious? Maybe it doesn't feel great, but can I just be kind to myself, compassionate, be gentle, and really give space for whatever is unfolding to unfold, and to just be there and be held in what we call this non-judgmental awareness. And we do it by paying attention. So remember at the beginning I was saying the attention that we use to direct our lives is attention. Sorry, the energy is attention. And then the receptiveness is the awareness. So we direct our attention and then we rest in awareness with what arises. And if you just feel the energy of these two words, attention is sharper and focused like a laser beam. And awareness, when you just hear that word, you can go, oh, something maybe just breathes out and just softens a bit, opens a bit. And so this is how we work with our practice. We work with guiding our attention and then receiving what arises in awareness. So I'm going to save some of my other tidbits for my next sessions, because I really want us to have an opportunity now to stop reading the menu, to stop listening to the menu, and to really taste the practice. So this is your opportunity now to really go inside yourself. And of course, I'm going to guide you, but to just see if you can, for now, let some of those concepts go and just let them relax. You don't need to pay attention or worry about them now, but just to know that in the next 5 or so minutes, I'm just going to guide you through tasting this practice. It's a short little taste, and it's called the 3-step breathing space. And it's a really wonderful practice that you can do anytime. You can do it when you wake up in the morning, or if you need a refresher in the middle of the day, or maybe before you go to sleep to just check in. And it's a practice of meeting yourself. It's a practice of greeting yourself, of checking in. So the first thing that I want to say is that I'm going to invite you to close your eyes. But if for any reason at all that doesn't feel nice for you, please keep your eyes open and just keep yourself connected to the space that you're in. Not everybody likes to close their eyes. And if anything doesn't feel nice in the practice, please don't do it. Just back away and just listen to my voice and just feel yourself in your room. But just taking the invitation, that feels right, that feels good. And so I'm going to very gently ring some bells, and these bells signal the start of formal meditation practice. So our mindfulness meditations the practice is the way that we choose. I'm going to cultivate this. Remember that intentionality that we bring. I'm going to choose to do this, and we're going to signal that intentionality with a little ring of the bells. And if you would like to shut your eyes and settle into a comfortable sitting position, this is a good time to do that. So just feeling where it is that you are connecting with the surface that you're sitting on. So maybe you're sitting on a chair or on your bed, and just noticing the places of contact. So just feel where your body is feeling contact. And then just notice that your body is also making contact with the atmosphere, with the air around you. And so feel your body meeting the space that it's in. And for the first step of the 3-step breathing space, we are just going to be a very broad, wide, and gentle landing place for whatever is up for you right now. And I'm going to guide you through 3 areas, 3 landscapes or terrains of human experience. So first of all, I invite you to just become aware of what's on your mind. Maybe not in this absolute moment, but maybe just the feeling of what's been kind of going through your mind. It might be racy thoughts, maybe worries or concerns, maybe just busyness or sparkiness. Just taking a few moments now in your own way to see if you can just make space for all of your thoughts and for your thinking. You don't have to push anything away. You don't have to hang on to anything, but just let it be here. Just let it rest here in this awareness. And not to worry if you can't access what I'm guiding you to, learning to kind of discern things inside of ourselves is really a skill that we cultivate over time. So don't worry if things don't feel clear. I'm going to invite you now to drop your awareness of thinking and to direct your attention to your feelings, to your emotional landscape. And as you do so, maybe dropping into the heart center, you might become aware of what feelings are present right now for you. And sometimes feelings are strong and tumultuous. Maybe there's feelings of ease, pleasant feelings. And again, don't try and change anything. Just see if you can be that spacious, kind, receptive, interested companion to your feelings. And now becoming aware of your body, of your sensations. The language of the body is expressed through sensations, and we can be really familiar with constrictions and tightness, places of ease, places that feel sore or uncomfortable. So just scanning your own body now and just noticing. And having explored and made space for the landscape of the mind, of the heart, and of the body, we now bring our attention inwards, a narrow focus of attention. And I invite you, if it feels comfortable, you can place a hand on your belly. And just as you continue breathing, you may notice that as you breathe in, the contents of your belly might very gently rise up and push against your hand. And as you breathe out, your belly settles back down again. And again, don't worry if it's difficult to discern, just as best as you can, just following each in-breath and each out-breath, and just keeping your attention anchored to the breath. So quite deliberately, breathing in and breathing out. And of course, very soon you'll notice that your mind isn't actually that keen on staying with the breath, and it wanders off into stories and abstractions. And that's absolutely fine. That is the nature of our minds. But we have this intention and we have this awakeness. And so as soon as we notice, we direct our attention and invite the mind back to the breath. And then once again, we drop into the belly and we have a few breaths here. Just riding this in-breath and out-breath as best as you can. And we're going to move now to the third step, final step of our three-step breathing process. And we're going to widen up again. So a broad spotlight of attention, feeling the whole body, directing your attention to the whole body, sitting here, breathing, your whole body open and receptive, held in awareness, and just going one step further, opening up, being aware of the space around you in your room, aware of the Zoom space that we inhabit together, and with the sound of the bells, bringing this formal practice to a close and just opening up into the rest of your evening. So there we go. The menu and the meal. Thank you so much. Should I hand over to you, Anita, to close our evening? I don't know if there are any questions.
Yes, what I wanted to invite everyone to is if you have specific questions, please feel free to pop them into the chat room, because we may not be able to field all the questions this evening with the awareness of time. However, there was one personal thing that I wanted to share at this opening session, Lisa, because it came to me in this practice that we've just attended now, and that was before the call, we spoke about how you know, we dive into things, and we spoke about the metaphor of diving into the ocean. And I happened to have flown into Cape Town this evening, and I'm sitting across the waters from Lisa for this session. And I remembered the start of the mindfulness journey for me was after having returned from a sailing trip across the Southern Pacific Ocean. I returned to Cape Town to write a book, and I came to Lisa's embodiment stress reduction program. I think it was an 8-week program that you were running at the time. And that was where I linked into the practice of mindfulness. And what struck me this evening was that here we are sitting together at the ocean in Cape Town, however many years later, is it 13 years later? And you're staying with this practice and teaching this practice and sharing it and offering it to people just consistently, year in and year out. I just wanted to bring that to the light for everyone, and how devoted your work and how that actually powerfully impacts others. And it's just wonderful to see the group here this evening, your supportive followers and people close to you and newcomers coming into the space at the same time. So thank you all for joining us. If there are one or two questions, happy for us to field them now. Otherwise, do pop them into the chat box. And there's always opportunity to join us, you know, for the other 6 sessions that follow from this one.
I just also want to say that I'm offering every 2 weeks. And then in between my 2 weeks, there's another incredible teacher who works with embodiment practices. And we're a lovely, we complement each other so well. And that's Athena Mazarakis. And she's offering also. So if this interests you and you want to work even more with this, with these practices and taste them, and maybe some which have got a little bit more to do with embodiment as well, she's also definitely worth signing up for her offerings. They're wonderful.
Thanks for mentioning that.
Yeah.
So gratitude for joining. May you have a gentle, peaceful night to follow with the cultivation of this awareness and this tasting of this meal. Thank you for introducing us to the menu, Lisa, and for allowing us to have this first taste of this meal of mindfulness in this series. We hope to see you all again soon.
Thank you. Thanks all for being here.